Welcome, everyone. You are tuning into Engaging Walk. My name is Drake.
And my name is Rubie.
We believe in the power of walking together and talking together.
It is a simple act to stay connected, and movement is key.
This week, we are going to be discussing how to develop intimacy in your relationship. It's going to be a part 1 of 4 or so episodes. And we are going to really dive into intimacy and all the things you're going to need to know about it in your marriage and further deepening the connection in your relationship. So this week we did our engaging walk over at it was the dog park over in Coronado, California.
Yeah.
We went with our dog Boba. Right now she's hanging out in her crate. She's super tired. And so we have some footage from that we're going to be sharing with you guys. And without further ado, we're going to be getting into this content. So we're going to be
talk about
touching
part 1 first.
Part 1 first. So yeah, do you want to share a little bit about that?
So for part 1, we would talk about building intimacy and emotional connections in marriage. And before we dive into that, I recognize that, a lot of friends and, even for me, we tend to disconnect because, whenever, especially in marriage, that is one of the deepest connections that, two humans can share. And it's very easy to go back to, fear-based and self-protection mode when, a person realizes that, oh, I'm going to get hurt, or I don't feel safe. I'm not sure how much I can trust you. And then that can happen very often in marriage, especially like the connection's not building, like the foundation's not there yet. And for me, even that happened, I think it's beautiful because when a person recognizes that, it's actually an opportunity for the two people to work on it and walk through the journey of building trust. And I think that's answer, like how do I maintain or even like grow deeper in intimacy in relationship, in marriage, is that to build trust and and communicate my need to you, and like I mentioned, is opportunity to open yourself up and let the other heal the wounds. And sharing that, I think I had to go into like my relationship, my personal relationship with Drake and my personal walk. So I remember there's a part of right after we got married. There's a journey that I feel like, oh, I'm not sure I can trust him. And then I was thinking of like, oh, because he had did this, he had this, that. This is a list, and it's just like a red flag. Oh, I cannot trust him. Oh, I cannot trust him. But I didn't see that until again, my life is with the Lord, and so sometimes the Holy Spirit was telling me like, hey, it's not him, it's you. I know it's weird to hear that, but it's he's showing me like, hey, the reason that you cannot trust him, because sometimes I have a checklist, and if the person does not meet that checklist, I instantly think about the past experience, the past wound, and that is a starting journey of healing my the past wound. And I love how God let me recognize it. I think it's very powerful when we recognize that, oh, I need healing and I need help from the Lord. And since I said that, like, let's do this, like facing the problem, and I say, okay, so how do you want me to walk through it with Drake? And I love that because it's a beautiful journey when I see myself open my heart, learning how to trust Drake, learning how to trust myself in this relationship instead of running away from it with fear, and protect myself. Because, like we mentioned before, marriage is a covenant.
Yeah.
And it's
you can't call it quits.
Yeah, you can quit. No, there's no.
You might be put into a corner or situations where you're like, oh, man, I feel this way, I feel that way. But, we said vows, and the vows mean something.
It means a lot.
And it's sort of like a level of comfort, knowing that, like, hey, you know what? that person's not going anywhere. So we might as well work through it.
And yeah, because of that, like even look into, because I remember so okay, go back. I'm kind of like jump before.
That's fine. Just say whatever's on your mind.
So I struggling with trust, and especially like with male figure, because okay, in the past I have bad taste with male. Like they destroy my trust. Like every time I trust someone, that person destroy it. So now I thought that I already, got healed, forgive them, and then move on and love Drake, right? Oh, then when I feel like when you got married to someone, like excuse me, in the legally, yeah, we are one. But then there is a beautiful journey of two flesh becoming one.
Yeah.
The becoming one is like, okay, I get to give you my part, and you get to, have my the other part. And that's challenging because now I have to open up.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have to go through these things and let myself experience you. Like I have to let him to know that, hey, I have a trust problem with guys. How are we gonna walk through that and with God? So go back to that, and I remember I told him like, hey, it took me a while to like recognize it. So the Holy Spirit taught me like, hey, you have a problem. Let's walk. Let's work on it. And then I took me a while to like, okay, all right, I'm not gonna run around. Or look away, but we'll walk through it. We'll face it. And now we're my husband coming in. So I told him, I'm communicating with him my need, like, hey, I need your help because I have a problem, and it's okay. I have bad experience, but would you walk through with me and God? And I love how he responds. Do you want to share? How do you respond to my need?
So when Rubie brought that to my attention, I said, hey, you know what? Like, I'm not going anywhere. So I grabbed her and looked at her, and I said, I'm always going to love you no matter what. Mm-hmm. And I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. So when you're ready, when you want to talk, we'll talk. And in the meantime, you don't have to worry about me not showing up to this relationship. Is ultimately what I'm trying to tell her is I'm going to be here. I'm going to give you like everything that I have to give, and that's my duty. So that's what I'm here to do. So
excuse me.
That's like what ultimately that's what she needs is, and that's what's going to develop the trust, and it's going to happen over time. At that point, we're newlyweds. We're still in newlyweds in some regard, but we're getting close to a year. But even a year is
like very new.
But a lot's happened, and we've had to face a lot of things. Mm-hmm. We've had to face a lot of things that a lot of people don't have to face, but we did it, and there's still going to be more that's going to be thrown at us, and we know that, but that foundation has been there. Mm-hmm. And we always work on building trust, communicating our needs, and healing our wounds together. So it's not just her wounds. Everybody walks through life with wounds. So that's a lot of the how. How are you going to develop intimacy? Because intimacy isn't just sex, and it's an important part of it.
Well, I believe that once you build the intimacy, sex is the byproduct of it.
Yeah. So sex comes when all of those things together. Mm-hmm. It comes naturally. It comes beautifully. Mm-hmm. And once all those things have been placed, the trust, the communicating needs, healing wounds together, then you can really flourish in that realm.
Yeah.
And so that brings us to the why. One is that being able to have a healthy sexual relationship with your spouse is going to be super important, because there's a lot of stressful things that are going to happen in your life, and having your spouse there to help you through all those things and to help each other, and to maintain a healthy sexual relationship and physical relationship, and spiritual and mental is all going to come together.
Yeah.
Because life's going to throw lots of things at you in your professional world, at church, with friends and family. Things happen, and you need your spouse there. So having all those things together is what makes us whole.
Yeah. And I also like the big part of us going together and, go through it and then recognize it is big part of it is because, we share faith. We mentioned that before. And like, we not just communicate our need, like the God knows our need, and he's the one, the Holy Spirit, the one that, speak the truth into our life and show us, very specific and strategic move. Like, okay, like a lot of time I don't know how to respond to that, and God was like, okay, you don't have to do much, just tell him your need, and then and just be real, and just, I don't know about other ladies, but sometimes girls can be very hard to look into their emotion, because our emotions like roller coaster, and then sometimes it's like, I don't know what my feelings right now.
Yeah, and from the male perspective, like once, at least for me, I know a lot of males are probably like this, or at least a fair amount, is like once we have like a mission or like an objective, like, okay, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
But if we don't have anything tangible, then like we're not going to know.
Yeah.
We're just going to be like, okay, she's upset. I know she's upset. I don't know about what. Maybe I give her time to communicate that. Maybe I ask, but once the woman is like, I'm upset about this because of this, and I need you to do that, we're going to be like, okay, got it, understand.
You just remind me about another, example. Like, for me, excuse me, I got cough really bad, so I try not to like cough as often as I could. So I remember there's one time that, I pinpoint and make connections, like, I behave like this because you did this, and then the reason of this, like A to B, B to C, C to D, and Drake will like, hold on, I can only work on A right now. Can you focus on A? I was like, no, because A leaded to D, and the reason I happen to D right now because you start with A, and he remind me again, like, Rubie, is I'm overloaded. just work on D with me right now. And it's communicate your need. Like, he communicate, hey, I only can work on A right now. Can we work on A right now? And then I was like, fine, let's do A right now. So it's about communicating my need. Like, he also mentioned, like, it's very helpful for him to hear my feeling and what I'm thinking at that moment. I'm like, hey, this is how I feel, and I need you to help me, or I need you to work with this with me. And I think it's not like weak, anything like that. I feel it's powerful when you know what you want, and like how you feel, and don't shy away or like,
because that's the honesty. That's the honesty in a relationship where, you have to certainly go through soul searching to be like, okay, this is how I feel. Why do I feel that way? Okay, this is, and then being upset about it is maybe natural for some, but then at some point you're gonna have to be like, okay, I'm gonna need to communicate this, because let's just say that you bury it and you put it away. You're like, okay, well, I'm upset about that, but whatever. Let's just go our way through life. Well, you're going through. You have to take that to its conclusion. You're going through life together. Yeah. It's not like I'm gonna get a year break from Rubie, and then she's gonna get a year break from me, and then we might revisit it at some point. At some point it might become worse, or the habits never really got addressed. Yeah. Or you might just forget about it entirely, and then when it comes up, you're like even more upset. You're like, oh, this thing never got resolved. So you definitely have to take that time to be like, hey, I'm upset about this. I might not want to address this because it would just be simpler to just go through life. But in the long run, it's going to make it worse.
Yeah.
So what you have to do is be like, okay, well, I'm upset about that, so let's talk about it. Mm-hmm. And then you talk about it and hopefully come to a conclusion. And if you're doing problem solving, or
That's me.
if you're doing this together, it shouldn't take more than a few minutes. Mm-hmm. You don't want to linger on these things. You don't want to just, hey, I'm upset about this. This is what happened. What can we do to make it right? And we had a little thing like this, like I think it was last week, where I wasn't happy about a decision that
I remember now.
that we made, because I felt like, or I assumed rather, that Rubie felt a certain way. Because she had acted similar ways in the past. But in this instance, we've already moved past a lot of those things. So I was like, hey, I felt like I needed to do this thing. And she was like, if you didn't want to do it, you just should have told me. Or if you wanted to do it a certain way, you just tell me, and that way I at least know. And she's like, then you can take my recommendation, or if you don't, or if you feel like a better solution is in order, then go with that.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
And it's okay. She's a little under the weather, but so eventually we went with the we came to at least an understanding and an agreement that that's how we were going to deal with things in the future. So now we have a new frame of reference for how we deal with those problems.
Yeah.
And then it becomes less of a problem. And then over time, those less of a problems just become your new way of doing things that result in nobody, or ideally nobody, being upset, because now you've worked through it, and now okay, this new situation or very similar situation has come up. This is how we said that we would deal with this. This is how we're going to deal with it.
Yeah. And I think that's the beautiful of being married to someone, because, like, you share literally every single thing in life. And, before marriage, the group of people that know me most would be my family. But they never, like, get into that emotional depth of connections like my spouse. And I can hide away some things from my family. Like, no, even my good friends, because I was like, oh, I'm busy. Sorry. I take a dip. Bye. But for him, and then also like emotional connections is very key to us. It's very off and odd that we just like stay quiet the whole day and ignore each other. It doesn't work. I thought it would work. No. So by communicating each other need, the communication, my need to you and your need to me, and building trust and allow that person to walk through those things is beautiful. Like you said, like we are rewriting the trust, the connections together. Like, because of that, after that, example, after what we went through, that you sat down and say, Rubie, I'm not going to go anywhere, because I experienced that all the guys walk away with no explanation. And I left alone and, had to figure out what happened. No, he stood there. He stayed the whole time, and he reminded me, like, hey, I'm here for you. I'm here when you're ready. And no matter what, I'm not going to move. And it just showed the commitment and faithfulness in this relationship. And that, is rewrite the story of, mistrust someone. Now, like, oh, I can trust this person. But because I allow myself to open up to you, to the wounds that I faced before, and now I get to heal. And then I thank God that, he walked through that with us. And it's beautiful now, I no longer have that experience of I mistrust someone. Now I have experience of how to trust someone in relationship, and how beautiful it is to able to do that with your spouse, and you get to tell the story for the people that surround you. And I think that is the beauty, again, is the beauty of marriage. You get to do it. You get to do it with someone that you trust. You get to do it to unlearn things and learn new things together. Yeah.
And I guess this leads us to like the last portion of maintaining or having this connection with someone is the who. The who are you going to be having this deep level of connection with? And the answer should be pretty clear, but just to emphasize, it should only be your partner. And this actually goes beyond just cheating. This actually goes towards.
What do you mean by that?
So, yeah, let me explain. So you have a deep level of intimacy with just your spouse. That should be a no-brainer, but everyone knows stories about people that have had affairs and things like that, and it's obviously that can just destroy
Oh yeah,
the
I know what
marriage
you're trying to say.
completely. You know, and for good reason. Yeah, there's so many reasons of why that would destroy the trust completely and could never be repaired. And I'm pretty sure in the Bible it talks about like that's grounds for divorce. But I'd have to re-look that up. But I'm pretty sure from what I remember is like even the Bible's like, hey, you know, if that happens, then like it's understandable if you'd want to walk away from that covenant. But going aside from that, there's also a level of intimacy that can happen. Like we were watching Madam Secretary. And even before it got to a level of sexual intimacy between a man and one of his coworkers, he had like an intimate relationship with this woman that was like heartfelt connection. So you have to check yourself if things like that are happening. And Rubie was like, see, like he opened himself up to that, and then he had an affair with this woman. You know, he was living in difficult situations in the show, Madam Secretary. Like he was living at like he was living at an embassy. You know, he was away from his family. You know, this happens a lot in the military with spouses on deployment. You know, they are looking for that intimacy somewhere else.
Yep.
You know, or that intimacy pops up somewhere else. But to be clear, they're inviting that in. There's no way that happens unless you're inviting that that intimacy in. So even before it gets to a level of having an affair, you know, you have to check yourself. Be like, hey, you know, this is a conversation that I would only have with my spouse. You know, I'm not going to be answering phone calls from people after
work.
You know, after like 8 p.m. or whatever it is that you like the time that you decide with your spouse. Like that would be an inappropriate time to be answering calls or text messages from,
or even like 5 a.m.
Yeah, you know, just things like that. And then you have to set up those boundaries with your spouse and communicate like, hey, this is what we expect. But also you as an individual should understand like, hey, you know, I'm in intimate marriage, relationship, covenant with my spouse. And this type of behavior, although it's not an affair, is still not fair to my spouse.
Or you can look at this way. I would do all of my you know, my area or my strength. My strength. That's kind of weird. In my, you know, responsibility, that Drake doesn't have to think or have an opportunity to doubt how my faithful toward him.
Yeah.
Like, how am I going to protect myself? How I'm going to respond and maintain my relationship with, you know, male friends in the way that he has no questions about my faithfulness to him. Like, I'm telling him, like, every time I text my friend, I'm very specific, like, why do I text that guy? You know, for example, like our good friends is Chris. I was like, oh, I texted Chris because he lived very close to us. And we just like, oh, just checking on him, how he's doing, you know, and blah, blah, blah. Like, trying to connect this is what I usually do. Like, I want to continue, you know, I should not say like not able to continue, but like I will make sure that he comfortable with my relationship with other male friends first before I continue going and hanging around with them. Like I won't hang out with male by themselves. Like why?
Yeah, we have each other. We hang out all the time.
Yeah, if I want to hang out, he want to be with me, or
And vice versa.
A group setting, and and so I think even like open, like it's just like he mentioned, like open up. Why would you open up something that unnecessary, and create thing? Maybe he doesn't have, or maybe I doesn't have any problem with that, but it's an opportunity
Right.
for something to happen, so why,
Yeah, and then there's like the third reason, which is any of that time spent toward like intimacy and further development you could spend that time with your spouse. So, even though like let's say you're like, hey, I really like badminton, or we like chess. We talked about this before, and my spouse doesn't know anything about chess. Well, you can still have conversations with them about it. Mm-hmm. You can just bring them in, be like, hey, I was playing this game. Mm-hmm. They don't need to know like top level understanding of like what you're talking about in order to be able to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And then your spouse will feel like, okay, well, I don't know like the top level stuff, but over time I know more and more because we have more and more conversations about this. Like the same way with my work. Like Rubie doesn't know all the ins and outs of everything I do at work, but I still share my day with her.
You may not think that I don't know, but I may. Just
Yeah.
kidding. Just
No,
kidding.
but she doesn't know like all of the electrical engineering and kind of stuff that we do, but she knows like enough. She knows enough of like what we do, what I do at work, so that she has like a background understanding of like, okay, you guys were doing this, you're doing that, you're upset because this happened, etc. So the excuse of my spouse doesn't work in my field, therefore I can't have a conversation with them about it.
Yeah.
That's not valid.
Yeah.
You can still have a conversation with them about your work, and if you just make it accessible.
Yeah.
Is the point.
Just like I cannot just say, oh yeah, you technicians, you have no idea about teacher's life, and that should not be a reason like, oh, I only can share this with all the teachers, those that in education fields, and then let's say that the teachers like male teachers, and I have so good conversations with him.
That's how it goes.
And then like, you just open something up that's supposed to be for your spouse, not for me. It was like I should not put anybody in front of him and to share my emotions and my thoughts, because I want his connection first. I don't want anybody else.
Yeah, and I do the same with music.
Jesus.
I do the same with music. Even though Rubie's not, a recording artist, I still bring her guitar riffs. I still bring her bass guitar riffs. Like, hey, what do you think? Check this one out. Listen to this. Listen to this thing I was working on. Oh, I did this mixed and mastered. Do you want to listen to this? Or does A or B sound better? I bring her in because one, it's fun, and then two, it's like it further deepens our relationship together.
Yeah, welcoming each other into the differences, and also like the common thing that you share is a big thing for a emotional connection, for sure.
Yeah, so I think that's a lot to digest. I think we went a little over what we wanted to discuss. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you guys our assignment for this week. So this week, the assignment is share with your partner the last time you felt deep intimacy and how it made you feel.
Yeah.
So, you're sharing with your partner, so you can be as graphic as you want. It's between you. If it's a sexual moment, it's a sexual moment. Let it out. Let them know, like, hey, we were having sex over here. It was great. It was awesome. Whatever it is you want to share, deepen that connection. Let them know, I felt so connected to you when this happened.
Yeah.
I felt like we were one, and I want
one.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I want to get back there as often as we can. that's the goal of this. The goal is deepening, just like our opener is deepen connections. So,
and you just mentioned something that I thought, oh, that's a great thing to say. That every time, like when you share, the moment that you felt that you have a deep intimacy with your spouse, you can always go back to that spot. Like every time you feel like, oh, I need to, fire her up, you always can go back to like, hey, do you remember the last time you make me feel so intimate? Let's do that.
Yeah.
It could be anything, Could be like, oh, I want to sit on your lap because that's what was the last time I felt so close to you, so love from you. So, anyways.
Right. So with that, we want to thank you guys for tuning in and making this podcast a part of your day. Mm-hmm. We really want to thank you guys for that. Like we mean
it. Yeah.
We really love having, looking on and saying, oh, this is new people coming in, new people checking it out. For those of you that have been listening for a while, we've been doing this since May. We're going to start moving a shift towards doing a lot more things on YouTube. Mm-hmm. So our videos, we're going to be doing the podcast with video every week. So we've noticed that like a lot of you guys like having the video to look at, and we appreciate that. We like seeing that. So we also got a lot of good attention towards like the Oppenheimer review that we did last week. So if you haven't heard that, check it out on YouTube. We, and on the podcast, we did a review of Oppenheimer. We didn't like it, but we're gonna do more of those things in the future. More different things you're gonna see from Engaging Walk, and more content. So tell your friends, tell your family. We definitely appreciate all the viewership and for spending time with us on that.
And if you have any thoughts and ideas that a topic that you want us to cover, send us a message, an email, or a comment.
Yeah, you can check us out at www.engagingwalk.com. Mm-hmm. Leave a comment on YouTube, and you can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and I think that's pretty much it for social media. Yeah, we have those. But lastly, again, we want to thank you guys for tuning in. And so next week, we're going to be going deeper into intimacy.
Part 2.
Part 2 is going to be nurturing the relationship through small gestures and surprises.
Ooh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So don't forget to click the follow button and subscribe. And this is Drake and Rubie with Engaging Walk, and we are
signing out. Bye.